Hello, my name is Kevin and welcome to the Love Decanters channel. So this is the first video I'm doing where I'm starting to work my way through the shelves, or cabinets I should say, at the Stourbridge Glass Museum. And we're starting with the oldest glass and working our way forward. And yeah, some of it is strangely familiar. And it's not just because I was there a month ago, it was familiar when I was there a month ago, and that's because I can find it in the books, or it's stuff that's such reference material that there's things almost exactly like it in the books, but it's not the kind of stuff that you see at Antique Centre or even glass fairs, because it's just that cut above so far, you know, so rare and rarefied. Yeah, I think with that said, let's get on and start having a look at the glass.
I'm here at the Glass Museum, the Stourbridge Glass Museum. They have a, there you go, little glass cone here, but they have a real glass cone. That's the red cone in the background. And yeah, we're right in the middle of Stourbridge, and I've got permission to come in. Been here before, so this is going to be great. There's going to be a lot of lovely glass here. So I'm starting in the museum with the oldest stuff, which is this Roman glass. In fact, actually, no, that's not the oldest. This is the oldest here. This little one here. This is a little ear stud or bead. So this was invented before they'd even done, or this was made before they'd even invented glass blowing. So 4th century AD, that's Rome. So a lot of this is Roman. In fact, the Romans invented glass blowing, so anything that's blown is Roman or post-Roman. And then you've got things up here. So this one is interesting because it's got the handle that you see on a lot of sort of like Whitefriars used it, reproduction people use it. Yeah, it's very iconic Roman style. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm going to use my own website as a reference to show you that jug handle we were talking about. So go into manufacturer, go to Whitefriars, and we go here. Here we go. So I've actually got a few, and I do take a careful picture. So yeah, this one here is jug I'm thinking of. So it's got this handle here. If you look at it in profile, you can see how it is in profile here. Look. It comes down, it bends up, and then if you look at it, I think this is better than this one. Here you can see where it comes down, goes up, and then you can see it's got these ribs on the back of it. So a lot of the ribs on the real Roman ones are not rounded like this, they're a bit more pointy, but this is what this is copying. This is actually supposed to be a copy of a Roman jug that was dug up about 100 years or so ago, or not copy as such, but inspired by, let's say. Yeah, so it didn't have a stopper like this, but the rest of the jug was like this. And yeah, this is my website, so I've got all the right details here. Blah, blah, blah. So it's Whitefriars patent number 2091, designed by Harry Powell in 1908. And I've got a few references for it as well here. So anyway, that's what the sort of like interpretation. There are also other copies of that kind of jug. We do see something later on, but let me show you. Actually, I'll show you something else on here. If I go here, again, jugs, viewers. So you can't see the back of this one, but this is a more accurate copy of a Roman jug, and you can see it's got a slightly more wiggly handle, and it's got this same, obviously I don't have the angle to show you on this, but this too has ribs down the back of it. So yeah, you'll see this on modern bits of glass. There was a piece like this on at the glass fair I was looking at as well, and I think we had problems IDing exactly what that was, but anyway, yeah, it's something that you will see around, and this is this type of handle with this ribbing on the back of it, and it's copying Roman styles. So they've also got a few bottles here with some of them have got seals on them. That makes them more valuable. When I started collecting a blank bottle like this, like that one in the back there, that would be under £100. Now they're just all crazy prices. And with a seal, it really depends on what's on the seal and whether it's got a date on it and whether it's identified as, you know, a particular person. So that's what makes a difference with these early bottles. There's lots of reproductions. You have to remember there's lots of people that do reenactments, and then there's people that make things for the reenactors, that try and make them as accurate as possible. So there's lots of copies floating around. You have to be careful of that. So I thought I'd take you on a little wine bottle-y journey to show you how there is value in these things. So this is Scottish Antiques website, and we've got one here for £235. It says it's from 1730. We've got another one, 245. This one's 1725. Got this one here, £290. 1720. I've got another one here. This one's £350. These are all sold. They're all out of stock. So this is what I mean about the prices. These are not £80 bottles anymore. And then I also talk about prices with seals. Now, when I was saying that, I had no idea what the prices would be like, but I do know it's dependent on what's on the seal. So we've got one here. Bonhams, I've just found out, not only do they have stuff that they've sold, but they've got what they sold them for. Not many auction houses do that. So we've got this one with a seal for dated 1720, £1,792, including premium. So yeah, almost £1,800 for this one. Got this one here, 660 rod. That's 1710 to 15. Yeah, seal as well. And then we have this one here. So strange enough, this one has the same date as the one we were looking at in the middle there. So it's got 1688. This one sold for £14,080. So I did say it really depends on what's on the seal. So yeah, and a date means that it's a reference piece as well. Having the name of the person is nice because that gives it some provenance, etc. But having a date gives you a fixed time. You can say bottles that are like this are from this time period. That's a generality, but you can use it to sort of like put or reference other things to it. So yeah, that's very nice. So £14,000 for you to get a reference wine bottle. Yeah, amazing. So, and I did also talk about reproductions, and I did actually try to hunt them down, just do a bit of Googling, and nobody seems to be admitting that any of this is reproduction. They're all saying it's the real thing. Some of them look more shiny than others, which makes me a bit worried. But yeah, so I thought, let's go and have a look at Mark Taylor's website, the glass makers, and we've got a bunch of them here. He's making them with seals on as well. Yeah, and I suspect the seals are as you'd want them. So if you wanted a seal to your own name and date and everything, you could do that. But I don't know if you'd have to ask them if you wanted one that was specifically copying one that's already existed. I suppose that could be done, and then it'd be down to you to date it afterwards. But I didn't actually look at the prices of any of these. Let's see if he's got a price. £30. It's not in stock, but what's he got on? Oh, one with the handle. That's nice. I like that. £45 to have a handle on it. Yeah, I quite like these ones with the handles on. So there you go. Having a handle implies that it's a reusable thing. I don't know how reusable they were in the day. Lots of them are found on the seabed and in rivers and stuff. So people were chucking them. Anyway, that's wine bottles. I've never looked at these before on the channel. I'm not a great expert. Do know a little bit about them. I have a couple of books on them. But maybe I'll do a book review and go through it or something. But I don't own any because I just thought, when I started, I thought I'd stick to decanters. And in a way, I should have been buying wine bottles because obviously they were a better deal, or at least more of an investment, I should say. Got some glasses here that are from basically the first pages that are in LM Bickerton. I think my favourite is this one, which would be from the beginning of lead glass when they were still copying Venetian patterns. That's like a Venetian style, Facon de Venise. And this one is a bit as well, but that one there with the quatrefoil blown knob, that is very Venetian style looking. What does it say? If I look down, yeah, it just says wine glass green pan with quatrefoil knob 1680. So yeah, these are all really, really cool. And the last glass that I pointed out that was on that shelf was this one here. It's very, very like this one. Pointed out it had this, it was a quatrefoil, so basically it's got 4 lobes off each side of the knob. It's a blown hollow one. Now, there's a lot of Venetian, early Venetian reproduction glass around. Your chance of finding the real thing is very low. Because these are very delicate glasses, and also so highly collectible back in the day, it's unlikely that any really escaped into the wild, or if there is one out there to be found, it's escaped into the wild from someone's collection, is all I can think. But yeah, these are really stylish glasses when you consider how old they are, and the fact that even Swedish glass Scruff did some glass like this with this kind of quatrefoil. Theirs was solid, but it shows you that people are looking at back in time at these kind of features and going, oh, I can incorporate that into what I'm doing. So yeah, it's called a quatrefoil, and it's always nice to know the name of something weird like that. We're looking at a page from 18th century English drinking glasses by LM Bickerton, and we're going to look at a few pages, and this is where we're starting. So I'm going to pick out a few of the glasses that we were looking at, not all of them, but quite a few of them. And there was one that was very like this one here. The date they've got on it is 1710. They say it's with Asprey anyway. So it's like this. This is called flamiform, where you've got this sort of like ribs going up. Sometimes they're at an angle like this, and then it's like pulled. The glass is pulled up into these little waves as it goes round. Sometimes with little knobbles at the end of them. And yeah, it's very similar, folded foot, etc., etc. This foot looks a bit flat by comparison. Usually you see feet more like this. The idea, the conical shape being to lift the broken pontle mark off the table. This one is slightly different, and it's 10 years earlier. I don't know what makes that difference. I don't have that reference that would point that, but this is what they've got. I often wonder where they make these small differences like this, where that knowledge comes from. But anyway, yes, this is very close to what we're looking at. And when you're getting back to 1710, then you are talking about quite expensive glasses generally. So the next glass I'm highlighting from Bickerton was this one. Now they had one with more of a honeycomb bowl. This was nipped diamond ways. I think that one does also count as nipped diamond ways. They're just a bit tighter. It's the same kind of glass. It's got the blown, it's not exactly the same, but it's got the blown knob. And yeah, this is a nice early one, 1680. This style is still following hard on the Venetian style glasses. So yeah, it's 1680. This is back when lead crystal was being invented, but this one, it's saying it's from the Netherlands and it's soda glass, but it is following that Venetian style, because basically the bunch of Venetians had escaped and were making glass in Holland, but they were also at the same time working for George Ravenscroft and making glass in England. So we've got another glass here that's close to what we were looking at with this gadrooning, it's called, where it's like this at the bottom and it kind of stops around the bottom. Everything you see that's gadrooned is not necessarily from the beginning of the 18th century. I think even Whitefriars did vases with this. Very similar pattern. Vases were sort of like trumpet-shaped bowls, but this bit here was exactly the same. So yeah, if you see an early glass with a folded foot and some of these features, I would say go for it, because if it's not too, if it's cheap, you know, if you're seeing it at a car boot or somewhere, buy it, because even if it's a repro, it still has some value. But if you've struck lucky, you've really struck lucky, because 1700, these are going to be hundreds, if not low thousands. So they've got these lovely mallet-shaped decanters here. These are sort of like first true decanters, where you'd have a fitted stopper of some kind. Don't know how fitted they are, but and if you see this little, can you see the little ring there on the neck? That's for holding the stoppers in. Well, when they had cork stoppers, they would tie them in with a bit of string, and that's what that was for. Actually, look, I'll scoot back along here and look at these early bottles. You can see they have the same kind of neck ring right at the very top, so that you tie down the stoppers or the corks. We're looking at a page from the book, The Decanter, Ancient to Modern by Andy McConnell. We have this mallet-shaped decanter here. In the book, off the bottom of this page that you can see here, it dates it to 1715. It does have a very high kick in it, almost like they're trying to hide how little wine there might be in this bottle. This one above does have a neck ring. They've dated this just 10 years earlier, but I don't think that makes much difference really, because neck rings carried on being put on decanters to long after 1715. This like top one, which is to hold the stopper in with a string, it became a fashion in a way. So even some decanters that had glass stoppers that didn't need a string still had a ring at the top here. whether or not this had a stopper. At this time, stoppers weren't fitted. They were just plonked inside. So like the ones we were looking, you saw how high the stoppers that were in them were sitting. Yeah, it wasn't until sort of like post 1750 that you start to see them actually fitted. But the ones from the beginning of the 18th century and late 17th century, the stopper just plonks in on the top, very loose, not held down at all. And yeah, could easily drop out. Anyway, none of these have got stoppers here, but the ones in the museum do. Yeah. So, and yeah, they're called ball stoppers with teardrops in them. So they've got those little bubbles in them that look like teardrops. So anyway, the fact that there's a pair and they're from this period, just amazing. And with the original stoppers. Got a couple of classic George Ravenscroft style pieces. I think this one is definitely his. It's crizzled. So when he first invented lead glass, he had a problem with it. With crizzling, the chemistry made the glass start to break up. It would go all bad like this. And then he improved the chemistry, got it like this, and they started putting seals on them to say these are improved, they're guaranteed as a guarantee. But yeah, this means that it's from the really early stuff that he was doing when he started making lead glass. So I was talking a bit about glass crizzling. When George Ravenscroft first invented, well, he didn't, he had guys that worked for him that did it, but invented lead crystal. It had a chemical imbalance in it and the glass crizzled quite quickly, and he had to do something about it. So they changed the formulas, and to highlight what was good glass, they put this little seal on it and put a raven's head on it as a guarantee mark that, you know, if something goes wrong with this, you can come back, etc. Anyway, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about crizzling, because you've seen a bit of it just here, quite bad, probably the worst I've ever seen. So it's also called glass disease, sick glass, glass illness. I use the word crizzling, which they put here. It's got weeping and spalling. So weeping, sometimes you might, if you've had something put on a shelf for a very long time, you rub the surface of it and it's got like a funny oily texture on it, that's weeping. And eventually, if you've got glass that does that, yeah, it may crizzle eventually. So spalling, spalling is where the surface cracks away and you'll get flakes of glass coming off the surface. Cracking and fragmentation. Yeah, it can be really bad. I remember the first time I went to Victorian Albert Museum, there was a glass in the cabinet. They'd obviously just left it there, where the bowl of the glass had basically got so fragile that it dropped through the stem. So there was basically a hole through the bottom of the glass with the stem. So the bowl was sitting on top of the foot with the stem sticking up through the middle. Yeah, I don't know if that's still there. It's ages since I've been. But anyway, yeah, your glass can literally fall to pieces in the end, and probably the jug with the metal lid there, it would probably break very easily, I suspect. But anyway, what I'd recommend you do is, if you're really interested, go to Wikipedia, because there's a whole bunch of chemistry stuff about what causes it, and yeah, there's all of this. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a big thing as far as what it is exactly. But yeah, it is a problem, and you'll occasionally see glass which have a sort of like holographic effect on it, and that's the crizzling. Yeah, just watch out for it. It might be that you want to buy a piece like that because it's interesting, or you might want to avoid it because it may impact the price if it was something that would be good. At this level, where you're talking about a George Ravenscroft piece, it kind of adds to the story, I feel. I would expect that piece there with the really heavy crizzling is still, I have no idea. It's got to be more than 10,000, maybe 20, 30, I don't know, even with all that crizzling. So now that I've stopped talking about crizzling, I thought I'd show you a reference I have for that jug. Here it is. This one here is the exact same one. This book is 18th Century English Drinking Glasses by L.M. Bickerton. This is not a glass, but it is in there. And yeah, so it says it's crizzled, nipped diamond ways, and pincered vertical bands, that's these, and Ryland Handball contemporary silver cover. They don't normally have a cover like this, but he's saying it's contemporary. So, and then he's dating it 1775. There's a similar jug in the Decanter Ancient to Modern, not this exact one, and they say 1770, but yeah, I don't know which date is more the right, but anyway, this is the exact same jug we were looking at. A couple more bits here in the George Ravenscroft. We will find these in the books, don't worry. If not these. This is very fashion Venice style bowl here. And then we've got like this huge goblet. And the reason some pieces like this survive is because they are special to someone, because they are so huge. And yeah, that's really nice. So I couldn't find exact matches for those pieces of glass, any of them. This is a good picture of a jug of the same kind. This one has this chain around the shoulders, which that one didn't. But what's nice about this one is it has the original stopper. So this is the kind of stopper that I've had. They're not fitted at all. You can see it's like a cone shape, just sits on top of the lip of the jug. It's, you know, it's not an airtight seal. The jugs that you see, plenty of jugs around without the stoppers. With the stoppers is quite rare, as you can imagine, because this is knocking under sort of like being 340 years old. So these are from the sort of like probably a bit later than the other one that we were looking at, probably 1680 or something like that. Yeah, and the other pieces of glass look to be a similar age, the sort of like end of the 1670s and 1680s. So that kind of period we're looking at, but still following tightly in Venetian styles, because that's what they were producing right up until this time, before they started making lead glass. We've got another crizzled jug there, but someone's made a foot for it. So I don't know when that was done. Someone has obviously decided it was valuable. Maybe because it was old. The foot might be like put in, because you're talking about something from the 1680s. The foot could have been put in 150 years later, as this was very old then. Yeah. And again, there's more fantastic glass here. So now we're looking at the other jug on the same page in L.M. Bickerton. Here it is. And what's interesting about this is, so my copy of L.M. Bickerton, I bought it as a new book. It was reprinted in 1991, but it was originally printed in 1971. So I don't know if they've reprinted it post 1991. I'm sure it would sell if they did. Anyway, what's interesting is, so these are both attributed to Sotheby's. So this one's got Sotheby's or there is where the pictures came from, and Mrs. Richards' collection, Sotheby's as well. So these were probably up for sale in the late 1960s, because if you imagine, no computers to put that book together. So if it was printed in 1991, it was probably put together through the late 60s, because it would have taken ages. It taken 2 or 3 years to put that book together, I'd imagine, at least. So this was probably sold and probably bought by the museum. I can't remember what it was called previously, but anyway, it was originally bought probably by the museum or something in Stourbridge in the late 60s. How much they would have paid then, I don't know. I do know that someone found a Ravenscroft jug in the 90s in a car boot, and it sold for £8,000. I do vaguely remember that. So it would be interesting to know what people would have paid for these in the late 60s.
So I hope you enjoyed that. We are going to start jumping forward through the centuries as we go forward with more videos from the Stourbridge Glass Museum. And I'm trying not to ruin the experience if you go yourself, so I'm not going to be showing you everything. I'm just going to be picking out things, especially with the later stuff, because there's things that I know are in the books, and I'm just going to go, here it is, and here it is in the book. So I'm going to do a bit of that. And so with that said, all the references I used will be in the description below. Please remember to like and subscribe, because it does help my channel. And thank you for watching. Have a good night. Good night.